Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the Tory leadership contest in the context of what I think the chances are for each of the contestants, and tentatively moving towards wondering if Robert Jenrick might actually be the real favourite. Certainly there's a lot of others that think so. Now, there's obviously going to be a huge level of uncertainty whenever I talk about anything like this. I am very far removed from Conservative circles. I don't talk to any Tory MPs. The only way I know what any of them are thinking, or at least saying, is via the media, maybe via Conservative Home. They alone decide on which two make it to the final ballot. However, there are good reasons to suppose Jenrick has a lot of advantages on his side, and he is currently the bookies' favourite as well. Now, being clear, all the talk of Badenoch being the favourite, I have said for a while at least, I think that's far-fetched. I think she's just been heavily promoted by the media. I think that's the only thing which has led her to being seen as the favourite. But she's quite volatile. She's politically naive. The only reason she ever rose to prominence, the only reason we even know she is because she was heavily promoted by Michael Gove when Boris Johnson fell. And Michael Gove's no longer in the parliamentary party. The best phrase I saw about her was that her temper made Dominic Raab look like a Zen master. And I think a lot of Tory MPs will see that because they'll have seen firsthand. You know, this favourite tag came about purely because she has more support amongst party members, according to polls, than any other individual candidate. But that support is less than a third. I mean, you could be the first choice for more than any other individual, but once you've whittled it down to two choices, you could actually be the last choice amongst all the rest, and then the other one will win by default. She's too divisive. I said Braverman would not become leader because she's too narrow in her appeal. She even annoys people on the far right. Well, Badenoch is less extreme than Braverman, but she has ultimately the same problem. Whereas Robert Jenrick has wider appeal within his party. Like a couple of years ago, you'd have placed him in the Rishi Sunak type mould of Tory. In fact, he was a strong Rishi Sunak supporter. That's sort of changed since. He's shifted himself to the far right after his stint as immigration minister. Whether he's genuinely shifted or whether he's just seen the way the wind is blowing, who knows? But he's now painting himself as someone who's got like the policies of people like Braverman and Badenoch, but without the toxicity, without the volatility. Which means that although you definitely say he's one of the far right candidates in this Tory leadership contest, he's probably got friends across the right wing, across his party. Then there's public opinion. Now, YouGov have just produced some favourability polls for various politicians, including the Tory leadership candidates. Now, I do often say, so when it comes to net favourability, if there's a large don't know response, you sort of have to ignore it. Because, like, you know, if you've got 20% of people saying, oh, I don't like this person, and 10% who say they do, that's net favourability of -10. Doesn't sound great. But, you know, that means there's 70% who don't know. So you've got the potential actually to become very popular. And that is the case for almost all of the candidates. There's this huge don't know chunk, which means the favourability ratings don't really tell us anything, except for one. Because the way this leadership contest is likely to go is, as I often say, Tory MPs are going to pick two candidates for the final ballot. That goes off to the party members, and then the members will choose the craziest option. So as far as I can tell, being completely external to Tory party thinking, there's a good chance that the final ballot has Tom Tugendhat and a pick from the far right, and then the members will choose the far right candidate. I don't think Badenoch will have enough support from MPs. Now, I could be wrong. I don't know them or what they're thinking. But I just think there's too much baggage with her. I think if they want a leader who can sort of move on, one of the things they need to move on from is this constant scandals. And we're getting almost daily negative press about her, whether it be about an abusive past with blogs and hacking, trying to use taxpayer money for holidays, hiring someone onto her campaign team who's swearier than Malcolm Tucker. Like, it all points to Badenoch being a leader who attracts controversy, who will constantly be putting out bin fires that are related to her when the party wants to move on and avoid the distractions. Which would then suggest Jenrick or Patel. Now, as some of you all know, I've sort of said for a while, Patel could well be in a decent position for the contest. She's been a backbencher since Johnson left office, which means she's a Johnson loyalist, very clearly, and a lot of party members still think Johnson's this sort of electoral genius. but she doesn't have her fingerprints on the mess which led to the biggest defeat in Tory history. She wasn't rabble-rousing from the backbenches either, so she can be seen as loyal to the party. She didn't cause trouble. Now, you could argue she did do as much damage to the Tory reputation as anyone because she began the Rwanda plan and she stoked the small boats problem. But I don't think the Tory party see it that way. However, if you look at this poll, the only person for whom it says anything valid, she's got an incredibly negative favourability score, and there's not a lot of don't knows. There's only 17% don't know whether their view is favourable or not. So alone of all the candidates, Patel stands out as the only one who begins with incredibly unpopular figures with the public that you're not really going to reverse. All the rest, yeah, they've got net negative scores, which is actually common for politicians now. But the rest have enough of a pool of don't knows to get the benefit of the doubt with the public and begin with like what you might call a clean slate. Of the realistic contenders, Jenrick has the largest pool of voters who would give him a chance. Like, there's only 8% approve of him. That's because most don't know who he is. And there's 27% disapprove. But, you know, there's all the rest, 65% who say, well, we don't know. That's huge. So if Jenrick can appeal to his fellow MPs, he can easily claim that the public are also willing to give him time. Both Badenoch and Patel especially begin much less popular than Jenrick. And another point I saw made, it's a subjective one, is that Jenrick is sort of making the argument that the Conservatives didn't really do anything with the power they want, which is objectively true. While some others are trying to defend their record in government, Jenrick is trying to make the case for using power. Now, what he wants to use it for is fairly horrific. But from the point of view of making a coherent argument, Jenrick is doing it. I've said before, ask yourself, what have the Tories actually done in government? Not done good, not good or anything like that, just done. Like, what reforms have they introduced? If you can name anything, it's not very much. If you can name anything, it's probably from when David Cameron was Prime Minister. Since then, it's just been Brexit and dealing with the impacts of Brexit. You know, like the Windsor Framework, I've said before, if I was to pick one thing which is something that's actually done, the Windsor Framework. But that was just clearing up some of the mess of the Brexit. They haven't actually done anything with their power. And they had a lot of power in the last Parliament. You know, in a year's time now, should I feel the need, I'd be able to do a video where I reckon I can list more genuine reforms under this new Labour government that the Tories can claim in the last 10 years. Even Tory party members will surely realise that their party didn't actually do anything in government over the last two parliaments. You ask them what they did, like, yes, you leaving the EU, but that was supposed to be a vehicle, not an outcome in itself. It was supposed to lead to them being able to do things that they said the EU were blocking. But what did they do? We left the EU. What did we do with Brexit? What reforms did they introduce? None. All we got out of it was more civil servants to deal with the more administrative work, more trade friction, more immigration, and more Nigel Farage, which I don't think Tory members are enjoying. So you look at the Tory leadership contest, you see Badenoch as fundamentally unstable and attracting a lot of negative news stories, which is only going to have her distracted from the job of leading the party. You see Patel as so unpopular with the public, it's not realistic to suppose she could recover that reputation by the next election. So you're just left with Jenrick, really. And Jenrick would surely appeal to party members more than any of the other three, because he will promise the extreme policies which the party members like, whilst appearing to be palatable to the public. You know, you do get to a point at some point with a broad church party where the members agree that they can't have all the extreme policies they want because they have to appeal. But they only do that once they accept that they're not at the moment on course to win elections, that they have to do something different. The Tories at the moment think that they could come straight back. So until they realise that they can't come straight back without fundamentally changing, they don't want to fundamentally change. They just want to tweak. And Robert Jenrick represents the tweak. You know, I mean, it's a less convincing argument for me, but there's no strong evidence that the public will dislike him right now. So he can claim that he could have, the public will give him the benefit of the doubt. And he can claim he's got actual policies and that the reason the Tories lost is because they didn't have them. They didn't do anything when they had power. So despite the Tory client media trying to promote Badenoch for their own purposes, I think it's fair to say Robert Jenrick probably is the real favourite, and I'm certainly not the only one. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.